All right, well, I might have been out, but I haven't forgotten what was going on in 2006 when Harry Reid was in another debt fight. It is time then to go back in time. So now, look at this.
How can the Republican majority in this Congress explain to their constituents that trillions of dollars of new debt is good for our economy? How can they explain that they think it's fair to force our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren to finance this debt through higher taxes? That's what it'll have to be.
All right, so there was no need for a hike back then. In fact, it was almost un-American back then, but can't live without one right now. Look at this.
Failing to raise the debt ceiling will be a major problem for the millions of Americans who would not receive Social Security checks, and for our troops who wouldn't get paid. It would cause the stock market to crash, draining American savings and retirement funds.
All right, so it was not an issue back then, a big issue right now. Here, Wyoming Republican Senator John Barrasso joining me. What do you make of that, Senator?
And Barack Obama, when he was a senator, said of President Bush that it was a failure of leadership to have to raise the debt ceiling. And now the president is saying if we don't do it, you know, the sky will come falling down. I think it's irresponsible of this president, the amount of spending. He should look in the mirror and say, hey, I'm the one that caused this. He is the one who has doubled our national debt in 5 years, going to triple it in 10. We need to pass a cut and cap and then balance the budget of the United States and put that in the Constitution. It sounds like, as you know, Neil, we've just moved that vote up. It was supposed to be Saturday. Now it's going to be tomorrow. I'm one of the original co-sponsors of that piece of legislation. It is the only thing that has passed the House that we now have in the Senate. I want to pass it tomorrow.
Why has it been moved up to tomorrow, Senator?
Well, I'm not sure why Harry Reid has decided to do that. It was originally for Saturday. I don't know if he has some members who have plans for Saturday and they don't want to be working and doing the people's business, even though he is claiming we have to work and pass things because the time is running short. I'm ready to vote. I debated that on the floor yesterday, again today. American people know our problem is not that we're taxed too little, it's that we spend too much. And we're borrowing $4 billion a day, Neil, a lot of it from foreign countries, specifically China. It's over $2 million a minute. We can't continue this way. There is no way you can stay a strong and independent nation and a force in the world if you owe that kind of money to a foreign country who doesn't necessarily have our own best interest at heart.
I'm wondering, though, there must be a strategy on Harry Reid's part, right? If you move the vote up, does that increase the likelihood that the Senate will reject it? It was popular in the House, not so in the Senate, so that this sort of dies on the vine, and now you're, I guess, back to square one.
Well, he may want to do that. I was ready to, with my colleagues, floor all the way through Saturday to talk with the American people about the need to have this bill passed, to get a number of Democrats to support it, to have people from all around the country call their elected senators to say, hey, the House has taken that first step. Now it's your turn as members of the Senate to pass, cut and cap and balance. And he may have been concerned that people are calling and telling their members to vote for that. And maybe he was afraid that as more time that the American people had to have their voices heard, that it might affect what he wants to have done.
You know, Senator, I talked to your colleague, Senator Jim Tebet of South Carolina earlier, and I asked him to comment on the markets running up today. They're up better than 152 points, the Dow was. I guess they're looking past this and saying you guys ultimately do raise the debt ceiling, whether it's with corresponding cuts in spending that have some teeth in it or not. What if it's just raising the debt ceiling, but you don't get to those planned spending cuts? Then what happens?
Well, I think that's the big problem. To me, it's not so much the debt ceiling as it is the debt. The debt is the threat. When you look at Italy, last week, in just 2 days, their interest rate went up a full percentage point. Right. I mean, if that happens here on a $14 trillion debt, you're talking $140 billion a year, $1.4 trillion over a 10-year period. I mean, that is a significant additional hurt to our economy. And at a time with 9.2% unemployment and people looking for work, this is the worst time to try to raise taxes on anyone. But that seems to be where the president is fixated. He seems to want to raise taxes. I want to cut spending.